I'm Josh Cooperman, and this is Convo by Design with an absolute ton to take in. So settle in. This is going to be a good one. When I moved to Tulsa in 2021, I thought that it would be a one-year situation and we would return to LA or figure out what was going to be the next destination. But something changed. Tulsa, Oklahoma is what the locals call green country. And it is green. This part of the country is in what can only be described as the lower Midwest. It's not the South. And one of the things that I noticed very soon after moving here was that life here is easier. It's far less complicated than it was living in Southern California. I'm a native Angeleno. I have moved away, but always come back. I love California. Seriously, I love it. But some things have changed over the past 20 years. They've changed drastically over the past 2 years. I made a trip to LA to visit my friends at Design Hardware, who are hosting a day of media and interviews. During that trip, I had the opportunity to gather with a number of designers and contractors to discuss changes in the design and architecture landscape. In addition to Convo by Design, I don't know if you know this, I produce Doctoring Up Design, which is the official podcast of Design Hardware. Design Hardware is a sponsor partner of Convo by Design, and the partnership is a strong one, going on over 4 years now. Part of this partnership is hosting and producing the podcast, as well as hosting and recording unique design architecture events. One such event took place in February of 2024. There were two groups. One group of designers in partnership with ASID, the Los Angeles chapter, and another group of all-female contractors. This is a very interesting project spearheaded by Joan Barton. And you may know Joan because you've heard her on the show before. She's the founder of Dirty Girl Construction, as well as her new project, SheSpoke, which is a platform dedicated to promoting the success of women in the industry. So today on the show, we will hear from a group of ASID Los Angeles chapter design professionals, discuss new design ideas taking shape in spring of 2024, and we will also hear from an all-female group of contractors answering the question, why is it so difficult to build in California? One hint, Title 24. We'll get to all that right after this. I am just incredibly proud of this partnership I've got with ThermaSol. They have been presenting partners of Convo by Design going on 5 years now. And there is a certain amount of pride that comes with saying that the show is presented by the company that is the best in the world at what they do. ThermaSol engineers the most exceptional smart shower products and steam shower systems worldwide, full stop. And it's for a few reasons. First of all, they were the first company to design and patent the technology here in the United States, dating back to 1958. ThermaSol, a U.S.-based manufacturer based in Round Rock, Texas, employs an engineering team that designs, tests, and continuously refines the product. Their quality control team tests every single steam generator before it departs the factory. Who else does that? Nobody that I know of. I have the pleasure of working with some world-class designers and architects who tell me, and if you're in the business, you know this, that the idea of luxury has changed, especially when clients want a spa-like bathroom. Steam is mandatory, or it's just not considered a luxury. And if you want to add steam, you have only one true option, my opinion, and that's ThermaSol. Mitch Altman, third-generation CEO of this family-owned company of 65 years, continues to innovate in the bathroom and shower space through technological marvels such as intelligent showering systems, sound therapy, aromatherapy, technical interfaces, and so much more. And now ThermaSol, the industry leader in steam bath equipment and technology since 1958, as I mentioned, is enhancing its already stellar family of products with the new indoor and outdoor luxury saunas available in 3 designs. The configurations are absolutely amazing, and you should probably go check them out. Indoor and outdoor options. It's amazing. You really do need to check them out. Go to thermasol.com or at ThermaSol on the socials.
It was interesting in our office. Nicole and I were just talking about this the other day. The COVID sort of passed us by. We had a lot of clients bought houses out of town. They required us to go and visit. They would require us to go and visit face to face with them. When Nicole and I became partners, we developed this idea of radical smallness. So we got rid of all of our staff, and our staff is just us. And so we do large-scale projects all over the country, but we do them together. So all throughout COVID, the two of us would still come to the office every day, and we would travel with clients. I mean, fortunately, a lot of them had access to private travel and things like that, so it made that a bit easier. But we just carried on. We rethought about the way the business looked in terms of its size, so we didn't have other employees. We had an accountant from out of town, we had a draftsman from out of town, so that was done remotely. Smaller things, which would normally be like a 15-minute job site visit, was done via Zoom. But other than that, we would still show up and do presentations and meet with clients face to face. It just felt like they wanted that, and we thought,
we couldn't think of a creative way to show someone, what a silk carpet feels like, how the hand on this fabric is going to translate for them by just holding it up to a Zoom camera. I mean, it just, that part and parcel of what we do day in, day out, which is a lot of touching, feeling, showing, explaining, it's all of that, just the visuals. It just frankly doesn't translate that, or didn't for us.
We're essential
through
workers.
A camera.
Yeah. Coincidentally, ASID just issued their 2024 trend report, not trendy, but trend. And they said there were 3 elements that came out of the whole pandemic area that they see for 2024. The first one, as Juliet said, was really about communication. People feeling a need more than ever to communicate, which actually gets into generational differences, because Generation X, which is coming up, they were stuck in the middle of this pandemic, and they actually align more with baby boomers and need to communicate, and the whole hybrid working, that kind of thing, because they're young and still want mentor. The second one was kind of a blurring of lines between living and working and playing, and people's homes suddenly became workplaces. Workplaces, in order to encourage people, not to work from home, became, more like home, and play areas. So that kind of blurred everything. And the third thing was about the blurring of wellness and sustainability. That became more important, but people are starting to really see them as one whole issue together. And the whole wellness was really about people appreciating their health and looking at wellness in terms of their homes and even where they work, the air quality, the light. And employers got more sensitive to their needs, biophilic, bringing in greenery, trees, inside out. So those were kind of the 3 overarching results.
Sure.
Yeah, that's to do your point, just to complete. Of course, that the physical aspect is very important, but I was more referring to the initial contact with the client. You could not have that physically if the person didn't trust that you could come into their home, right? So you had to find other ways, at least that was my experience, to do that. Of course, at a certain point, yes. You go into the home because then they trust you. Right. You have established a relationship, and then it's okay, because of course sampling over the screen is like everyone's nightmare.
Because the clients that we got through COVID were all clients we'd serviced before who were buying projects, and so we really sort of were able to narrow that down to people who we knew, who knew us, and that kind of gave us sort of that.
You already had your rapport.
Yeah, for sure.
I think part of it also too was a huge amount of repeat business, and you're saying I did the same thing too. In places where I never had thought I'd ever go down to Orange County, Newport Beach to do houses, do up a loft up in Hollywood. But again, these were all repeat, and they felt comfortable working with somebody that they had worked with before. I think that really did a good telling during the post-pandemic time. It has to be a comfortableness with somebody. As if you're not comfortable with working with a particular designer or whomever, contractor, you kind of stand back. But if you have with the same person, you just repeat that, is that yes, you're very comfortable with them and you will do whatever's necessary in that post-pandemic period.
So I found that people were, since the pandemic, they're more into comfort. They just want to be comfortable. They were stuck in the house for, almost 2 years. So they realized that, this could be changed. This is too formal. Let's, switch this around a little bit. And because my husband and I, we do interior and landscape, a lot of the clients want to push out walls and open up the space to bring the outside in and the inside out. And so we've been doing a lot of outdoor living spaces. And actually it's been really fun. Yeah.
Well, I have a funny note about that. I moved here during the pandemic from New York. And to speak of comfort, I was working primarily remotely with repeat clients that were in New York. I couldn't get any business in California because nobody knew me. So I'm finally busy here now, but for the first 2 years. And then as soon as everybody started flying again, I was flying back because I had 2 projects there and I was going almost like once a month. But in New York, most people have smaller spaces and they were trying to build things up because suddenly the husband and wife were both working from home with screaming kids. So it was a little, yes, the outside in, great, maybe more plants, but people mostly were trying to, divide. There's this, divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer, yeah.
Yeah.
How did your showroom partners and manufacturers since then, how has that relationship changed?
For me, it hasn't changed at all. No. I mean, I have a team that I have been working with now since basically the beginning, and even before. And we have a partnership, whether it's a painter, whether it's a whomever. We worked very well together and try to not change. We try to continue to work as a team. We're always a team. We're never not a team. I don't think it's changed at all. My business is still the same.
I think that they're more intuitive to our needs. They're always asking, can I send you this? Can I send you that? Whereas before, it was kind of a hit and miss, I find. I think they're just a little bit more conscious of, what we do, and they want to accommodate us more.
I think I always enjoy. I like tech. I always liked it. I'm a bit of a Star Trek-y person myself, so I welcomed the computer from the very beginning. I'm not the generation that grew up with it from the start. So I did always a lot of research online. But that being said, after you do your research, you want to talk to people because they have the knowledge. So I always had teams of people that would provide the knowledge that I could not get by the research I was doing because it was specific in any given area. As a designer, you have to solve so many problems that you cannot be an expert in everything. So that's why the team, as you were saying, is essential. You have to have a great team.
Right.
And in that sense, communication with your team of experts and vendors is more than ever essential because service is not something we're seeing everywhere these days, right? To say it lightly.
Right.
And during the pandemic, it was tough to visit showrooms. I mean, even once the design center started opening up, you needed to make an appointment or whatever. And it became incredibly difficult to go to the design center and shop because it's all of a sudden it's I need to go to Holly Hunt, but they don't have a 1 o'clock ready, but they have a 2, but I'm here. And so you found workarounds around, and those have carried over to a large extent. We don't tend to shop furniture at showrooms much anymore. We tend to shop it online and visit the trade shows like High Point or Las Vegas to sort of get a sense of general things. Fabric is the tougher one, but we even rarely shop fabric now because we have people come to the to the office and do presentations and shop that way. And it has streamlined that shopping process a lot more. We find we're spending a lot less time out of the office shopping and more time able to do that in the office.
I think the other thing too was the relief that the pipeline finally, that was the biggest stress during the pandemic, was the pipeline was not working at all.
Yeah.
And our vendors, you know, it really put them on the spot, particularly in appliances, plumbing, fixtures, that kind of thing. And so I think they became more service oriented to a certain degree, to your point, Juliet, because they really knew that they needed us. But I think the thing that they did was they made more available to us online. So it became easier for designers, as they used to say, if you're buying at 12 o'clock at night, you can come on. But everybody now, to stay competitive, has to have a working website.
Yeah.
Every
sure.
major brand.
Sure.
And you can order your samples.
You can order,
that way, which
yes.
is nice.
And then there was a company called Material Bank. I don't know if I'm allowed to say
Yeah.
that, but
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they really changed everything where, you know, you could be getting a pedicure and shopping on your phone and the samples would be at your house the next morning by FedEx.
Yeah.
I still
Yes.
don't know how they do it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
incredible.
wonderful. Yeah. So this connection between the virtual world and the real world has become really an essential tool.
It feels like there's a tsunami coming in terms of the showroom model. Like, I don't know how that showroom model works economically for a lot of these people. Because you go to the design center and there's 8 designers wandering around. There's like nobody ever there.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't seem as though the showroom is driving income, but the overhead is so astronomically high. And it feels at some point that has got to flip in some way, and a rethink of what a showroom is or is about or how it operates. It feels like that's sort of the next shoe to drop.
Yeah, that is so true. If you walk around, I won't say names, but you walk around and you go, wow, you know,
Nobody's here.
there's no one in
Yeah.
But you still need
here.
to try things.
Yeah.
It's interesting because in New York, like the D&D center is still relatively, it's busier than it is. Like, you know, I could tell the difference like between the D&D and the PDC, but even at the D&D, the rents are so high and there are lots of showrooms that are now open. Obviously, you still want to be able to try things in person, and, you know, with textiles, like you have to go and touch. But I feel like in California, these people are sending samples out, or they're doing, you know,
Absolutely.
visits, firm visits
Right.
more than they were
Yes.
in New York.
Yeah.
There's just, and it's convenient. There's just, it's not,
In San Francisco, what the design center does a lot is just have events and have educational events. So they'll invite, you know, whatever window treatment specialist or a designer, an artist, a furniture maker, whatever, and then you have the opportunity to just learn a bit more, like it would be an office presentation, and you meet other people. So it has this, you know, this typically San Francisco kind of thing, but it really it works.
Yeah,
you know?
and there was recently a vendor day at HD Buttercup, and I think there was like 25 different vendors.
Were you there?
I didn't.
I
weren't able to go, we were out of
went,
town.
and it was
Faraday
fun.
Great.
It was great. I went.
And that's a great alternate to a design center to
Yeah.
be able to sort of say, do this a couple times a year. We'll come and see what we need to see,
Yeah.
and then we can go away.
Also, HD Buttercup was a little bit more centralized, so that people were easier to get
Like
to and
from
easier
both
parking.
sides.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Easier
to-
parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not for you.
Yeah,
but-
parking. Let's talk about
then-
parking.
and then-
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. Before the pandemic, they used to do events there, you know, all the time. So I'm glad to see that they're bringing that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels
I got to get on their
innovative. Yeah.
mailing list again,
Right.
I
Yeah,
guess, or something.
Yeah.
Me too. Here.
Yeah, you know, so really, I mean, there are events and teaching events that people will go to. It just has to be kind of centrally located.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it can't be too far
Easy
away.
access.
It's like,
yeah.
you know, I will go up to the valley. It's too far away, not coming from the beach. And I don't expect people to, well, like, here's a good example. I just got a word that there's going to be an IP event for ASID Pasadena at the Altadena Country Club. Well, from Manhattan Beach to Altadena Country Club is not the easiest thing to get to.
Yeah.
but I've been to one before. About 5-6 years ago, and the Pasadena group throws a really nice IP event, Expo, and we are going to be doing one in the Los Angeles chapter as well in the fall. So
Sorry, what's an IP event?
Yeah, what's
industry partner.
Oh, okay.
Industry partner.
Oh, I didn't know either.
I'm sorry.
Going
I'm sorry.
over the IP ones.
Industry
It's
partner.
very ASID talk. It's very ASID talk.
I was thinking I'm probably the only one not knowing what it is.
I think it's just us at ASID that talk about it like that instead of it. Sorry. But it's and going back to the other points you guys were talking about is I'm still old school. I like to go and touch and feel.
I'm with you. I
especially
like
with
that
especially with fabric.
Fabric.
yeah.
Fabric is
yes,
Lowe's, and
yes.
well, that was one of my last jobs too. But before this one, I have a kinship to fabric. I love fabric. I think fabric there's so many new and innovative constructions right now. So many beautiful patterns out there. Colors.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just mention everything. And I think I'm still old school. I like to do the touchy-feely. I like to get the samples from the showrooms. I like to take the samples to the client right then.
Absolutely.
I mean, the question is less about touchy-feely and more about, is the showroom model the way to it? Is there other ways of achieving touchy-feely without spending $25,000 a month on a showroom?
Yes, that's a very good question. Yeah.
Unless you do it more localized.
Yeah. I mean,
See, we actually do have somebody. It's funny, in El Segundo, but she hasn't put her full strength behind it. Her lighting needs to be better, and I mean, there's a couple things that she hasn't spent the money on that maybe a showroom would have spent the money on. Does she have a lot of samples? Oh my God, she has tons. So if there's an emergency, I'll go up to El Segundo.
Yeah.
And look up there. But usually I will go to the PDC just because of the different showrooms that I will enjoy going to.
The Pacific Design Center.
Yeah.
Because I live in such a remote area, I have some vendors send me their fabric books.
Yeah.
And so that really helps because I can, show the client, and then if there's something they like, then I order larger samples.
Right.
Of it.
So you keep a materials library
Yes.
in your office, right? Which is what we do too. We
Yeah,
have
I do too.
We,
Yeah, I do
we
too.
have. I mean, this goes all the way back to the very first intern job that I had in New York, where everyone, you have all the fabric boxes sorted by color, maybe by type. You have the books, you have the trims, and I mean, it's so specific and particular to this industry, obviously. But I mean, we have, I think, for not a huge office space, we have a fairly robust materials library, but it tends to be basics, neutrals, nothing too crazy. So when you're at that jumping off point at the beginning of a project, there's nothing I love more than wandering around the PDC and just taking inspiration, seeing all the different lines, picking out the new fabrics, everything that you want for this one client, that idea for that client is just it's the best part.
Yeah, I think in terms of materials, we see a lot happening. That's one area of our field that is really exciting me, is the new materials. It's fabrics, is the fact that, you can tell your clients now that there are sustainable options. We are not totally there, but we are doing good work.
Does everybody find that their clients do care about sustainability and wellness, or do we just talk about it more? And at the end of the day, if it looks good, they're happy with it, or the price is right.
It depends.
My clients, we talk about it more.
I think we talk about it more.
We talk about it more, and some clients really care about it,
Yeah.
and others not as much.
Yeah, the majority don't.
But
They don't
They
even
talk
mention
about
it.
it till they see what the trade-off is. But I would say for me personally, one of the areas that bothers me the most is the amount of waste in our industry. I try so hard to cut back on catalogs and samples that I don't need, because it just kills me the amount of trash that I throw out from my office. And demolitions. I'm about to start a new project, and working in a kitchen, it just really hurts me to know that, the refrigerator, everything's going to end up on a landfill. I know there's more organizations now that have answers to these things, but I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Well, I tend to be optimistic. I understand. I mean, it's not in our field, it's not that we're become enthusiastic for sustainable solutions right now, right? Everybody has been thinking about this for a long time. But there were no options really, or very little options. I always compare it to organic food. You might have wanted to eat something organic. I was vegetarian way back then, and it was very difficult in those days. Now I have so many options. So we have the same going on with our industry, where you have to take it one day at a time and just count your blessings. We do have options. There are good companies in the United States, so that you can also talk about the full cycle of the product. So are we choosing products where transportation is going to be an issue because they come from overseas? As much as I love European products, after all, that's my background, but can I find an equivalent here? What are we doing to educate our clients to express the fact that there are certain options that they have right now? Others, they don't, but we do have options. And I'm one that I try at least to explain that. And no judgment if someone doesn't want to go that route, but I think that it's my responsibility to point out that we have a partnership with nature now, that wellness, as you said, is synonymous to what I do. So I'm offering the second layer, the second skin. We're not talking about our body, but our home is our skin, and people have to be aware of the choices they make. Sometimes they also choose because they don't know that everything is exuding on them, and it might not be the most healthy option that they're choosing for, right?
I think it's one of the things, though, that the designer has to educate also the contractor.
Yes.
Because I find that
That's a good point.
that in my business, the contractor's willing and ready to throw it away ASAP.
Yes.
They don't care.
You're right.
Whereas the client will stand back and she'll just kind of go, or he or she will go, okay, whatever. They don't really know. They're just kind of going with the flow. Whereas I will always, and I try to only use one. I use Habitat for Humanity as my go-to.
But they don't take everything.
Well, I don't know.
Very
just
selective.
about.
Really?
Oh yeah. Just see again. It could be location in LA. In the South Bay area, they've been very liberal about taking.
My experience is if it's over 3 years old for appliances or anything like that, they won't take it.
No. See, I've been very lucky.
Yeah.
And I think it is also the designer who has to educate the contractor.
Yes.
The first word is it's not to throw it away. You have to offer it to somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I use Habitat for Humanity. I think
Yeah.
it's a
Very good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use Habitat for Humanity
Oh, good.
as well. And they just about take everything.
Yeah, I know.
And the other thing that you can do too is actually give it to a charitable organization.
True.
Because there's always families out there that are looking for something, and a refrigerator that's slightly used, or because sometimes when you do these remodels, they've had that refrigerator for maybe a year, and they just want to do something different. So
Don't you find it hard, though, to find that person to give it to? In other words,
No.
if it's not an organization, but to find just a person by themselves? Oh, you find it easy?
It's
I
really
find it really
pretty
hard.
easy because, I'm very connected in the community.
Oh,
I do a
cool.
lot of
Okay, that's
community work, so I know which organizations,
Gotcha. Yeah.
see families and know, the
Yeah.
needs and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So,
I find though that there's always a lot of workmen, especially in the demo period,
Yes.
Yes.
and they all have families and communities.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Yeah.
times
They'll
Yeah.
they'll
take
take
it.
anything,
Yeah.
which makes it a lot easier. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think
Yeah,
it's also
true.
the designer, though, can also say to them, hey, guys, take it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Take it.
Yeah.
I do that
Yeah.
quite often too.
We do that all the time.
Yeah,
And-
They
take
take
it.
everything.
Right.
Take it,
Yeah.
guys. Take
And
it.
you
Don't
know
throw it
it's
away.
going to a
Take
great
it.
home,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
it's going to be
Right.
appreciated.
Yeah.
And they all have
Yeah.
trucks and they just
Yep.
drive it away.
Exactly.
I think it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
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 And I find that a lot of my clients are really concerned about energy efficiency,
Yeah.
sustainability, and they consciously don't really know, or they might think they might know about that, but they really don't know, as much as we might. But energy efficiency, they're really concerned about keeping, their utilities bills down and stuff like that. Even with window coverings, they're like, we want something that's going to block out the sun.
I was just going to ask because that makes such a difference.
Yeah,
Which
it makes a
window,
huge
Yeah.
difference. Yeah. So I find that that's one of the things that they ask for. I just saw a lady yesterday that was so concerned about the sun coming in her office, and it was so hot, and so I was able to give her a solution for window coverings, for that. So.
Right. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of our clients now are looking at materials that are going to hold up to say sun fast,
Oh, right.
stain resistance, and it also feels like finally the textiles and the fibers have caught up,
Yeah.
in which they have a luxury feel, but they resist stains. They
It's
will.
the outdoor fabrics.
I mean, there
That are
would
amazing.
be, times just a couple of years ago that if we suggested to some of our clients that they use an quote unquote outdoor rug indoors, it would have been a non-starter.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely not. Now, outdoor quote unquote outdoor rugs are hand knotted. They're custom colored. They have the feel of a mohair or a silk. And now these clients are using them in their dining rooms or in their living rooms, and they are bulletproof. Like you can't stain them. You can't.
Right,
they're,
exactly.
and they'll last forever.
I feel like also since the pandemic, two things. One is everyone's got a pet now. I think I read 96% of
Yes.
households now have pets of some kind.
Yeah.
So no matter what you have, be it flooring, rugs, furniture, it has to be pet proof, number one.
Yeah,
Right.
pet and kid proof, absolutely.
Kid proof, yeah. Kid proof is a little easier than pet proof, I think. And then number two, it's cleanliness. It has to be easy to clean.
Yes.
I don't know if that's I don't even think that's generational, but I have found people more OCD now than they used to be about cleanliness and making sure it can be done easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, one thing I should mention, like with one particular project where the client has done a lot of research into PFAS because it's related to his work, and a lot of this performance fabrics are now PFAS free. So even though, and we're recommending them for kids' rooms and all of that, or we were at least 4 or 5 years ago when it was performance everything. But when you look into the science of it, I mean, you really have to be careful. And and many companies, because it's not by law, still they're not required to say whether their textiles have been treated with PFAS or not. It's just they're not doing it, and it is up to you to contact the manufacturer or the vendor and have the vendor call the manufacturer. And they ended up reupholstering something in this project because it had PFAS, even though it wasn't listed. It was very interesting, and this came from the client. Usually we're the ones driving it, but some people are very, very particular.
Yeah.
But because I love performance is great, but I think there is
There is exactly
there is a big range there.
That is
Exactly
the discussion.
Yeah.
What is important to you? Because we have fabrics that are green guard, they are good for children, allergies, all of that, good quality. You have also fabrics that are man-made. Vegan, all sorts of vegan fabrics that are, let's say, better for your health.
Yeah.
So these options are there today. It's a matter of, is the client interested in it, and what is the price increase if there is a price increase? And you have to make a case for that. If you have a child that has an allergy, I think that price will be worth it, right? Because it's your child's health. But if that's not a concern and you want to, for instance, talk about your floors, because that's something that you walk on every day, so you can layer it like a design, you can layer your options for the client. So where is it essential that we go sustainable? You don't want to have glues, you don't want to have certain solvents and things, and okay, so let's talk about that. So next layer. So until you get to all the soft stuff, the upholstery, are you going to reupholster? Do you want window treatments? So this is a conversation that I think that is fun to have. It's good, And there's once again no judgment. People have the liberty to choose whatever they want. They're our clients. We are here just to offer the best service we can, and the education is part of it.
So do you guys work in different states or locations? Do you find differences?
We do. At the moment, we have projects in Utah, Wisconsin, Missouri, and Florida. So, but we've also done a bunch of work in like Indonesia, Singapore, Egypt.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's neat. So do you see a difference, or
How are the clients different?
Yeah.
What they're asking.
Well, the international clients can be a little challenging. There's especially as sort of we head towards the Middle East. There's a lot of cultural differences that's its own set of issues.
But some of the some of the homes that we're doing outside of California are people that have their primary residence in California. So the clients might it sort of has the same interaction. I'd say it's more in the contractors and the trades.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Getting material.
And getting them
the same.
Yeah. There's like in some of the sort of resort towns that we work in, contractors, there's very few very high-end contractors, and so they kind of do the job the way they want to do it, not the way you want them to do it. And that can be a little tough, and it's really about sort of trying to establish a really good relationship with them. So we spend a lot of time trying to get to know them, become more friendly with them than maybe we would here, just because we really want to be able to sort of leverage that personal element to sort of to the advantage of our client. Also too, it's like, getting used to the climate is a different, I mean, I grew up in Australia, so the idea of doing a ski house to me is like, what the?
Yeah.
And so the idea of water and snow and that whole thing is a little bit of a mystery. So there's that.
For me too.
For me
Grew up in
too.
California.
I grew up in Brazil, right?
But that's part of the challenge. That's really sort of part of the fun element of it.
LA is so big that even within LA, you have experiences.
Yeah, you could be doing a ski
Calabasas.
project.
I mean, it cracks me up because my Calabasas client has a home in Palm Springs, and I'm like, why do you need to duplicate your? It's the same weather, same. And like, oh no, it's very, very different. We need to get away. So it's crazy. But then you go down to South Beach and you've got the moisture and the sand, and that's totally different.
Yeah.
That was incredible. An amazing group of ASID Los Angeles chapter designers that included designers Mark Cutler, Cheryl Vines, Nicole Schultz, Philip Nielsen, Lenora Malley, Juliet Vandermeiden, I love saying her name, and Jacqueline Steinberg. For more information on each of these designers and their firms, as well as the great work being done by ASID's Los Angeles chapter and the Doctoring Up Design podcast, check the show notes for links. Next, we are going to hear from Joan Barton, Lauren Howley, Shannon Sheehan, and Katie Casaza. Love saying her name too. SheSpoke. And why is it so hard to build in California? We'll be right back with that right after this. Man, I love this. I have a new sponsor partner on the show that I want to introduce you to if you're not already familiar with them. If you are a specifying designer, architect, landscape architect, or savvy design enthusiast, if you have heard about the quiet luxury movement, this idea of crafting a lifestyle around understated elegance, simplicity, and sophistication, there's more to it than that. And I will add uncomplicated living. Isn't that what we all strive for? I am extremely happy. I'm really thrilled to share a company that embodies all of this, utilizing proprietary technology and a focus on sustainability in their stunningly beautiful products. It's TimberTech. TimberTech is the premium decking company delivering multi-tonal, color blending, and natural wood textures in a product that is virtually indistinguishable from a natural wood product. What does this mean? It means it's everything wood should be. A beautiful look that blends seamlessly with a well-designed space, providing years of enjoyment and performs the way you want it to. No splintering, fading, peeling, cracking, or rotting. I had a wood deck at our Manhattan Beach home, and I gotta tell you, it was exasperating every year doing the random board flip, taking out nails, resetting them, restaining them. It was a complete pain. It was complicated, and I didn't look forward to it. I wish I had TimberTech, because TimberTech is not only uncomplicated, it's beautiful. It comes in over 20 finish options and 9 collections, and 85% of the material is recycled. This is premium decking for your next project. Learn more and specify it for your next design project. TimberTech on the socials or timbertech.com, where you can find a retailer near you, as well as a number of tools to create, design, order samples, and get the expert help you may need. TimberTech is uncomplicated luxury and performs. It's your choice for your next deck project. Design Hardware's newly remodeled showroom is where you will find a gallery-style space with a thoughtful display of products, purposefully positioned to allow unbridled exploration and discovery. High-end faucets, luxury tile, natural stone, wood floors, and bespoke hardware selections are presented in a holistic manner, strategically arranged to stimulate creativity and transition your vision from the conceptual stage to a fully realized space. Conveniently located, free parking available. Stop by to find your inspiration, collect samples, get expert advice, and tackle everything on your shopping list all in one place. Visit them online at designhardware.com or in the real world, 6053 West 3rd Street in Los Angeles.
So I know that. So I don't even remember where we really left off last time, other than we were sort of downloading of all the challenges that we deal with in little bits. But I'm interested in what's happened since then, and my main thing right now is, climate change. It is killing me right now, combined with Title 24.
Yeah. Also fun. Yeah. Although I have a client who is convinced there's mold in their house.
Oh yeah, everybody thinks there's mold in their house. There is.
There's mold everywhere. And if you hire someone whose job it is to find mold, they're gonna suck if they can't find mold.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guess what? We're gonna find mold, and this is. No matter how many times you explain, it isn't the end of the world, and it isn't harmful, and there's this angst, and every time it rains, and you can't get a roof installed.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, everything's blooming right now for sure.
Everything. The mold thing is tricky though, because there's a one genetic mutation that certain people have that mold is lethal to them.
That's me.
Yeah. And so it's like I never want to be the one who's do your genetic testing, and then I'll tell you how bad the mold is.
It's a weird thing to hear from a contractor. Right. We're going to need you to see a doctor first.
Yeah,
we need your blood work.
Yeah, and then we'll. Because in so many instances, it's not terrible, but then there's going to be the one where it's really, really terrible.
Right. Like for me, I had to rip out part of my house. Yeah, and that's an extreme thing, but I have mold sensitivity, not just because I have it, but because I've been breathing it for so many years, not even realizing it.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean,
years of
years of doing older homes and restoring super old homes. I mean, the amount of stuff that's gotten into my system, because 20 years of asbestos. My dad's like, "Don't worry about it. We rolled in it as kids," and I'm like, "I know you did. It's why you're still alive."
Yeah, right. You protected yourself.
You're just literally pickled. But for me, I walk past a house. I do, like I'm walking the dogs, and I will walk past a house. I'm so sensitive. I can smell mold in someone's house from the sidewalk.
Wow. Yeah.
And I want to knock on their door and be like, "You have an issue."
Yeah,
definitely.
But then I think maybe they don't. Right? Maybe they're okay with it, and maybe they're so used to it that it's not a big deal. So it really is for client. When it gets tricky, you always have to have it tested, because when it gets tricky, is different types and different concentrations.
Yes.
So knowing where those zones are of yellow, orange, red. Like I had a leak in my building, and that when it first started raining a ton. So I'm going to say this was 5 or 6 years ago, and we had like 6 inches of rain on the flat roof. and we didn't know there was a pool up there because we didn't know that the drain was clogged because we were so busy taking care of other people's
people, yeah.
houses that
Yeah.
nobody crawled up there and saw that like there was tons of trash from the cupcake store. So, just like
normal things.
normal things.
Normal activities.
So or people sleeping up there. I don't know.
You never know.
So the roof started to leak and it almost collapsed, and so we had to drain it, and the building, that part of the building got buttoned up with plastic, as one does, puts up a zip wall, and then it kept raining, and then it kept raining, and it kept raining, and we couldn't fix it. And so it turned into a terrarium.
All sorts of crap thrown on there.
Basically,
Now-
because it rained for 6 months. So
Now
then
you
it became
can
toxic.
Well, because we haven't really had to deal with weather as contractors really before, I would say in the last 5 years it's become a real, this isn't a once in a lifetime kind of situation. It's going to rain for 2 to 3 weeks every year.
Months.
Yeah, however long. And then we, I know people who build back east, they have systems for dealing with weather.
Yeah.
They have tarp companies that come and suck up a house and people to call. Here, we don't have any of those resources yet because it just hasn't happened and it hasn't started. And I drive past these houses and I think, where on earth do you get a tarp that big? I would kill for a tarp that giant. Where does it come from?
Now. I mean, my roof has a whole division now where he just goes around
And
covering
that's roof.
roofs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Because
have
they can't get to
people
them
who
all.
do it, but if you're building, so I don't know what they do back east exactly, but what we do out here on a ground up is you put up commercial grade scaffolding 3 stories high and you shrink wrap it. Now, that's $250,000 on the project that I'm doing in Brentwood. You know where I'm working. That's a massive
I just
amount of
drove
money.
by it the other day.
No, it's a different
But you're
one. But
saying-
even that house would be that much. So to do, to cover a house that's 7,000 square feet, so that you can work in it, just that nuts $250,000.
Yeah.
Just to be able to work.
Yeah.
So most people don't want to spend that.
That's the thing.
But then it becomes, I can't work. We were just talking about this earlier.
I'm waiting on one with, I cannot finish a job inside. We're past all roughs until I get a roof.
Yeah.
I can't finish my windows and doors.
You can't.
I can't do it. I can't insulate. And the roofer is, backed up because of everybody else. And so it's just sort of a waiting game on who can get there.
I've
What do you do?
I've worked through rainy seasons like this before, but I've worked under tarps. This is beyond this, but all roughs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't set finished if I
No.
wasn't sealed in
No.
because that would be stupid. But it's very.
I won't even let them deliver anything to the house.
In a lot of ways, it's great when it's raining because if you're in the middle of building a house or getting near, you're drywalling and the roof's fine, and all of a sudden there's 6 leaks.
Yeah.
You
You're
can
like,
see it.
well, at least we know now.
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
don't have our
That's
finished
happened to me a
cabinets
number of
in,
times.
we don't have- there's always a silver
And you've
lining,
always
right?
got that one leak
But
that
it
no one
really
can
is
fix.
better for it to rain when we're at that stage of construction. I think,
It
in a
is.
lot of
It's good that the buildings are being acclimated in a way that they aren't normally during construction. But what I just found, so we finished a house, we sealed it up. I don't even know. I don't know what month it is right now. I'm going to say last summer.
Okay.
Floors have been in. This is interesting for Michelle to know. So floors have been in for like 2 years because it's a 4-year project. They've been covered. This is where Title 24 makes me insane. Everything's Title 24. Everything's sealed up. There's no air passing through this house while we're building. There's no systems on. We're working as hard as we can through all these different seasons with the doors open, closed. We've got condensation all over the place.
Sure.
And I mean, it's just insane, right? So we finally get everything buttoned up. We're finished. Woodwork goes in. Everything gets painted. Client moves in. Turns the heat up to 78 degrees on the HVAC system.
Did everything
I
buckle?
think I heard this.
And the floor is up to 88. And everything cracked and buckled and dropped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because there's no humidity in the house.
Yeah.
Because she never opens her doors and windows.
I've got
Ever.
I've got someone who over humidifies. They
Well,
have so
that's
many
better.
humidifiers,
Well,
the
that's
floors
better.
are cupping.
That's better.
Yeah.
So I've never seen anything like that.
Well, the floor's cupped without the humidity because there's
Well, it's
humidity
moving
something from
Yeah.
underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so all these different conditions that are going on. It would be fine if it was consistent. Like on the East Coast, you go, oh, it's winter. This is where we're going to be at. This is how we build during this time. This is how we condition this house. What I'm seeing is today it's 80 and sunny. Tomorrow
Yes.
it's raining and 52.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the materials are.
And the materials are going, what the?
Well, the problem we're also having is we're finding a lot of hidden underground streams and waterways.
Yeah.
Because we generally specialize in hillside construction.
Well, that's
I've been
what happened at Beverly Glen.
Yeah.
That's
which I live in, which has been fun.
Yeah.
My other job off Mulholland, not as easy to get to anymore.
No.
Yeah.
But the deal, we have literally crawl spaces that have been dry forever are just leaching. There's so much groundwater that the ground table is just pushed up. And so, luckily that room's tile.
But that's going to
It
continue
feels
to
buckle
happen.
too.
Yeah,
It'll still
I mean,
buckle.
it also has a heated floor, so great. But it's things
My
like that
favorite, the heated floor.
that I'm finding after
Leak chasing.
Yeah,
That's what
the-
I feel like I'm doing.
and
Leak
it's
chasing.
just
The last
miserable.
month has been, I've just been chasing water.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just miserable,
Yeah.
and people get really upset. I understand, but it isn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
And I very much react to everybody's negative vibes because I'm from Los Angeles, and it really affects me when people come at a problem with this is the worst thing that has ever happened. It isn't.
Yeah.
It can be solved,
Yeah.
but if everybody comes at things as this is the end, it just makes it all so much worse.
I know.
Well,
I'm
the
working on
drama
a
is
Spanish
stressful.
house, and the basement, which the man's owned for 25 years, and the basement filled up with 6 feet of water. It's never happened before. It's right around here too.
Yeah.
It's your fault,
No. This
You
guy
touched
is,
it.
He's an attorney. He's very smart. He knows that it's not my fault.
that's not-
It's
Luckily.
not always the smart ones
Yeah.
that like to blame
Well,
others.
anyway, so, but in that case, I'm still going to hold to. It's good that it's happening now because we're in the middle of redoing his whole entire basement.
So you can deal with it.
So now, I mean, we already had been drywalling and doing everything, and all the drywall's ruined. We had to tear everything out, but now we have to waterproof it, put a sump pump in, blah blah. So
Are you waterproofing from the inside then?
from the inside and the outside,
Oh, you're digging it out. Okay.
yeah. So
It's and the rains have been particularly challenged because it's not even consistent rain. It's like a dump. Like somebody took a bucket and just poured it. So every system that's in place, all my sump pumps, all my gutters, they're all overtaxed, and they don't make gutters big enough to allow for that
I
kind
have
of
that
water
problem with
dump.
the leader head that runs over the front of something.
leader heads are the nightmares.
And everybody's and this family's complaining that it's leaking. There was 14 inches of water.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's a limit to what I can make work.
Yeah, because what you also don't see on the East Coast is you don't see flat roofs, you don't see parapet walls in Spanish. That doesn't exist. everything has a pitch.
And not,
So-
no
It's a
scupper.
huge difference.
And
Huge.
scuppers
That's a
that
huge
get cleaned out regularly, gutters that have the leaf
Yeah.
guards and are drained and are maintained. That's the other problem. I've got a lot of
Yeah,
clients who
full of-
maintenance is not something they understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, sump pumps, I have one client, I'm not involved with the sump pump, they are running it with an electrical cord. Are you out of
solid.
your mind? Are you out of your mind?
That's
But-
gonna last about a minute before
You know?
it checks the GFI.
and I
Won't
just
work anymore.
if that's how they've decided to not pay us to do the grading, what am I supposed to do about it? I can't force them. But it's getting to be a real concern that what do we do? If we don't have $250 grand to shrink wrap a house, but still have to be on a schedule.
You don't, but that's where it's your schedule changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's force majeure or whatever
Very
in our
much so.
contracts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just a painful conversation with the client because even as rational, as smart as people, they don't care.
They want to be in by such and such date.
Right.
They envision having their kid's birthday party in the backyard, and
Exactly.
you're screwing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and it was so evident during the pandemic where it's like entire crews would be knocked out and it was like, sorry, the roofers can't come because they all have COVID.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what? Are they better now? Like, what? There's
Get
rules
another
in place.
crew.
People are dying.
But and even just bigger picture, but like even remember when the rules changed for doctors? All of a sudden, doctors they just had to be 4 days in after their first diagnosis, then they could get back to work, and it was because we just needed them back to work and needed them in the hospitals. It's the same thing. It's like our threshold for all of that
Acceptability is gone.
is very very small.
Yeah, there's not a lot of patience right now.
No.
And
but a lot of expectation.
a lot of
Yes.
expectation. I feel like the challenges are greater right now than they were during COVID.
Absolutely.
That is how I personally
I
feel.
fully
Well, I
agree
think
with
Why do
that.
you think that?
Well, between people's expectations and climate change and
Inflation.
inflation, and it's a political year, and there's wars going on, and all this is affecting people
Yes.
psychically. I mean, whether they think it is or not, everybody's very like nervous, and the
Yeah.
stock market's doing this, but we're getting this message
Interest
over
rates
here,
are-
and like everything's a little bit upside down, and everybody's waiting for the shoe to drop. The shoe is not dropping. The
We're
shoe
in
is not
limbo.
dropping.
It
This
doesn't
is the-
drop.
This is the new reality. Well, it never has.
It
Well,
never
let's
has.
just
That's
be-
right.
let's be
That's
honest,
right.
never in a
I mean, it
construction
shifts.
family.
It
It always
shifts.
it ebbs, it flows.
Yeah.
I think I have a different
If
theory.
there was a time for construction to fall flat, that was COVID. We all
Yeah.
went back to work 3
and we
days
all
later.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're all there.
We were
That's true.
essential workers, remember?
Who didn't get
I
vaccinated
certainly
with
did.
anybody else. It was really helpful. My theory is everybody sat home and watched HGTV, got obsessed with TikTok and Instagram, and I mean, I'm sure you get the pictures all day long with people saw
Oh,
this
yeah.
door, this window, this. I think people became obsessed with their spaces because they were stuck in them.
Yeah.
And the stuff that they could not tolerate anymore, a lot of them, if I have seen, trying to fix it themselves
Yeah.
because they watch too many videos. And then what I have seen is people showing up going, I need this bathroom. I've been dreaming of this bathroom and I need this light. Well, this light is from Sweden and it's not rated for this. And we've had
It's
this
not
discussion.
legal here.
But I think it's a lot to do with, I think everybody psychically is a mess. Fine. But that's every generation is psychically a mess at some stage.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of new things going on that have never happened before. You know, and some of that is code-wise and climate-wise. Like, the world is
Yes.
physically and mentally and spiritually changing at a rate that is very hard to keep up with.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're in the middle of trying to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
In the midst of that. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of our job, is to keep creating
Right.
despite what's going on.
And keep
And-
it calm. Keep
Yeah, to keep
Yeah,
people
and I think
calm.
home is people's sanctuary
Yeah.
now more
Yeah.
than ever.
Yes.
I mean, you had your
Absolutely.
home maybe to show off or whatever, but now it's like you're
To focus. You know you
Yeah.
might have to really be stuck in it
Yeah.
for a period of time.
Right. And what does that look like 5 years from now if you're making a decision today? So you have to be really careful about that space, conscious of why you're creating this space, like intentionally designing this space for this family, for their future, not just like, here's a bathroom, right? Like,
Right.
but on top of that, what do we do about the fact that the world around us is changing how we live and how we function? And again, it's happening again. Like, COVID was one thing, but climate change, people don't have to believe it, but I live it every day. I mean,
Yeah.
it's real. I can look at my construction calendars from 10 years ago or 5 years ago to now. I mean, the fact that I'm taking March off is simply because of climate change.
Right. Right.
Because
It's
I
gonna be a
can't,
difficult
I
month anyway,
cannot
yeah.
perform the work that I need to
right.
perform in the month of March in a safe, productive way. Because when I look at the calendar, I can look at the precipitation schedule
Yeah.
and go, it's not possible.
Yeah.
Unless we want to do it twice.
I'm very sad about that.
Yeah, but I
It's
also
gonna
don't
be a
want. I
tough
also don't
month.
want to pick up another job.
God, maybe we
March
should push
for
this
me.
this vacation.
Well, it's hard. It's hard, but it's also normal in other parts of the country
Yes,
that they
to
take
do
the-
this.
yeah,
so
they take
Yeah.
you know, you
bad
get
weather
a, you
months.
get a 6-month build time versus a 12-month build time, and you need to recalibrate how you move your crews and how you do that work. And it's not impossible. We've all worked commercial. We've all worked with, you've got 3 days instead of 3 months. It's not
Yeah.
impossible, but you have to be willing to jump in and make that change in your company. I am too old and too pissed off to even think about
You're
it.
only 14.
You were younger. No, but I, it's not that. I don't want to keep up with that.
Yeah.
I don't. It's not what I do.
Yeah.
I could. I feel like
No,
I feel like it's just,
it's a losing battle.
right.
And
But how do you even keep
young,
up,
old
really?
doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
I mean,
how do you what?
You could keep up
it
really
keeps
anyway.
changing.
I mean, if it's
Yeah,
going
exactly,
down,
exactly.
You have to grow
You
your
have to
business and change your
surrender
business
and-
model.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's sort of what you're saying. It's the business model, but then it's like we have to figure out how to get these things in place that we have the tools to help us keep moving during these times. We have to get the roofer who's has a whole division just for tarping.
And he charges extra for it.
Of course,
Like,
as he should.
As our
course.
roofer,
It's
you know,
not
any roofer
250,000.
does.
And they
You know?
should. That is
That is a reasonable.
we've
Yeah,
all
cost.
had tarps on a roof that we have had to run out there at some point and not charge for that time, but that is
Yeah.
time spent in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
And
They
in
don't
order
have
to
a roofer
protect,
do it who they know how
Exactly.
to work on roofs.
Exactly.
It's,
they have the right
they-
tools to clip themselves in.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
gonna fall
Safety
and break
first.
my
Yeah.
neck.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's so
exactly.
many times where
Yeah.
we, like my husband and I, a couple years ago, we got some really bad unexpected rain all of a sudden. We had open framing, but it's an existing home. So we had open framing second floor, but existing home first floor.
Yeah.
And we had to get out there in the pouring rain and tarp this house into the night. Nobody was available.
Yeah.
Nobody was
I
around.
remember doing that.
And
Yeah.
I'm looking at my husband, who at the time was like 50, climbing. Thank God for him. I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
have been like, forget it.
Right? No.
I mean, like,
At some point you have to.
Just think,
Do it
I can't.
myself.
I don't know. I cannot do this.
Yeah.
I'm physically not capable
physically,
of doing it
because
myself.
the two of us, we actually had to cut the tarp. They are so heavy. These
Yes,
because
the
I
big,
own,
big ones.
I
Yeah.
own them all.
Yeah.
But the two people untethered on wet open
No,
framing on
no.
the second story.
Terrifying.
I mean,
Yeah, at night.
yeah.
at
And
night.
it's,
At night, yeah.
Windy.
Pouring rain.
And we did it, but oh
Yeah.
my God.
No, yeah.
I
I
mean,
know.
so when I pay somebody $10,000 to go out and tarp a roof because they're the roofing company, I happily pay them
100%.
$10,000.
Oh,
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
sure.
I don't care what it
Oh,
costs.
I'm
But
so
it's
happy.
so that's going on, but then our houses are so buttoned up out here, which is a different thing than the East Coast, where windows still leak, I think, and you know, I mean,
There's
I have to
room
put
for-
in a wood
there's
window
there's
every 2
room
months.
for reality is kind of what's going. I see like there's room for. I don't know. My whole family lives back east, and when I go there, I can still feel like the wind,
The draft.
the draft,
Yeah.
right, and that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
So now we're putting in humidity
That's important.
Oh,
You're saying
things with our HVAC, and we're putting in fresh air intakes and like all this.
But you're going to talk about
Frustration.
QII insulation,
Which
which
is
is
a mess.
the.
Oh.
I will. Anytime it comes
talk
on a
about
Title
that.
24, I will go back to the Title 24.
Say
I will
no.
do anything but this because it's QII is the. For you guys, it's basically you don't have any walls no longer allowed to breathe. It's
Right,
plastic,
right.
and then your insulation framing, and then plastic,
Yeah.
which is not that's not how any house is meant
Yeah.
to be, and that's why you're just going to create a little
You're
envelope
creating,
of mold.
you're
Yeah.
creating a place
exactly.
for mold to grow and
Yeah.
sickness to grow, and it's a sick building situation.
And
Yeah.
It
it's
is so unhealthy.
Someone
God
had a-
bless the college graduate who came up with.
I was
this.
going to say,
mean,
do you think our
but-
building departments are
No,
just
no.
too quick to switch things?
I think this
Yeah.
is someone in Sacramento who's doing calculations, and it's like,
Who's
oh, this
a-
is how we can keep hot air in, cold air in,
And that's
hot air
their
out,
job.
and that's
Yeah.
it.
Just
And
figuring that
they
out.
don't
Intensive
build.
spaces.
They
Yeah.
don't go beyond that calculation.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then that gets introduced with the fenestration, and that gets introduced with like 1,000 things
Yeah.
that we deal with, right? But they're all on different pages of.
Yeah.
You've got
And they
20
don't
people-
talk.
They don't
No,
talk.
no one
talks.
talks.
No.
But this isn't even building department. This is
No, it's
somebody
not the
up in
building
Yeah.
some office
This is just
who is
a-
just running energy
It's an energy-
calculations
yeah.
and has no idea what even houses we're talking about. Because I'll get a QII on 2 walls of an existing 100-year-old home, and I'm like, tell me what that's going to do.
Yeah.
How does that change the energy in this house? But
Right.
it meets the calculation requirement,
Yeah.
and so it's so arbitrary,
Yep.
and it's
It
so
really is.
idiotic.
And let's be honest.
But that's what we're
And
supposed
let's
to
be
do.
honest. Nobody checks it.
Nobody checks
Wait,
it.
I
There
got,
isn't-
I got hit.
They
I
might-
got hit
well,
for an
you-
ADU for they wanted the compliance report where you pay a gentleman. Now this is a racket. You
It's
pay
all
a guy,
racket.
and
Yeah.
he comes out, and I don't know. He didn't tell me he was coming, so I didn't know what was going on. And the homeowners just happened to be home, and he just sends me 2 pieces of paper with the wrong address on them that say, check, all of those things were done.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
do you know they were done?
yeah.
How do you
It's
know
the
All
same
the
as
walls were closed. How would he have known?
no. It's a racket.
And
It's a racket.
What was that?
it's called they now require, and they were supposed to start requiring them in City of Los Angeles like 2 or 3 years ago, but no one was really doing it. And it's, you have to hire someone
It's like a
come out.
HERS inspector.
Yeah, but different.
Oh,
It's
it's a
different,
HERS.
but it's
different.
a similar
It's the same idea.
As a HERS, yeah, I know that.
And but
it's the same
it's someone
idea
who
that they
comes
check
out
the-
and goes, oh
But
no,
who
I looked and
calls?
saw
The architect or the owner?
the inspector asked me to get it.
So do you remember when they
Oh.
first brought out green building?
Yes, that's a
Yeah.
drill.
And you had to fill out your 5 things.
The
that you were
caulking
doing.
you used.
Wait, but the
And
owner
then-
kept it. You didn't have to give it to anyone.
No.
No, you had to give it to the
You had to
city.
give it to the city, and then you had a green
Yeah.
bill
Yeah.
book, and the
Oh.
inspector would
Oh,
come
that's
out
right.
and check it off. And then
Yeah.
that inspector said, "Well, I don't really know what's going on." So then they had the green building inspector,
Yes, that's
Right.
right.
and then
That
for
was-
that's
whatever
right.
lobbyist reason, they got rid of it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was like they didn't have enough money to have the green
Mhm.
building inspector,
Yeah.
so they said, "Fuck it,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
self
Sorry about
self
that.
check, self
Yeah.
check, kind of like insulation self check."
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Or-
And then it became nothing, and then it became the architect's job to put in all the,
That's
the
right.
green sheets
That's
into
right.
your set, which again,
It's just a huge.
I don't know who checks that.
No, it's a copy and
No.
paste.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's,
the
it's the same-
inspectors don't look at it. I mean,
Well,
but some do,
but-
and it depends. It's
yeah,
like,
it's really
like,
hit or miss. You can
the-
have an inspector who's really into it. I've got one who's already told me, I'm going to need all the flow rates on all of your faucets.
Right,
And it's
yeah.
like, are you
Yeah.
serious? You're going to know that this Kohler faucet is the same Kohler faucet that I have in this. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, I'm not trying to get away with anything, but
Yeah.
giving me a hard
No.
time of, you understand you have 2 shower heads that can't be on at the same time.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's a
or
big
you
one.
can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
Yeah, I have an inspector
the
always wants
newer
a HERS
inspectors
test.
are
Yes.
harder
See it.
about code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that they're being trained differently,
They
but
definitely
Well, they're
are.
worried about liability.
They-
we talked
right.
about
Yeah,
it.
a
Huge.
lot more.
I mean, I
Huge.
A lot more
really see
liability.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely.
So they rather have some other expert sign
but here's
off
the
on it.
liability, and this is what my point is. It is.
this is why I can't
Yeah.
sleep,
No, but here's-
everyone.
Oh my god.
This is why I quit. No, here's the liability. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I think it's really important that these conversations happen. It's not unlike, I think we talked about it a little bit last time when everybody was building filtration pits in the front yard 10 feet away from the foundation. And we were like, really?
There's
You're going to
one-
put a swimming pool
there's
with
one-
zero?
They're building a big one right on one of the Danyas in Studio City through one of
I
my
mean,
cut
like-
throughs, and I just stop my truck and go, why? Why
But-
did
but-
anyone say
but-
this was okay?
But because there hasn't been a failure yet.
Oh,
Once
will
there's
be.
a failure,
Yeah, there
a
will be
lawsuit,
one of these
course there will
planters.
be.
Yeah.
So, but we really are building sick homes.
Yes.
And so until people start getting sick and realizing it's
And
because
tracing it
of-
back to
and
this.
tracing it back to all the things that we're talking about,
Yeah.
there will be no change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There will be no amendment to creating healthy homes. We are not creating healthy homes. You can put all the healthy stuff into it that you want to. You can put in the best
The
spa
non-toxic.
So the
and
osmosis
non-toxic.
filters and
I mean, all of
Yeah,
it.
all that
But if a house
Materials
can't breathe,
Yeah. No, that's exactly right.
that's it. That's the end of that
Yeah.
sentence.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Is there
That's it.
an expert that can look at plans in a build and tell a client, homeowner, this is what you need to do to make
We can,
Yeah.
but
The
it's
thing
not,
is,
But
the-
how much
the thing with
liability
that-
do we want to take
but-
on?
No, but it's
that
not even
outside of
that.
us?
How do you then go back and say this is how to do it, but then the city says, but you're not allowed to do that.
right
And the
after
the thing about the Title 24 is that it's not evident on your plans.
Yeah.
It's the sheets that you have to read that is printed
Little
this
tiny-
big.
right.
Yep.
You like a magnifying glass, and you're like, oh,
Right.
QII.
Yeah.
Go back to Title
Well,
24.
let's say you
And that's
missed
what I
a
just
Q-
do.
Well,
Yeah.
we've had it where we bid out a job. I didn't know what QII was. It had just come out, and all of a sudden the insulation bid that was reasonable becomes outrageous.
Yes.
And now you have to say to someone, we're doing something I don't actually agree with, but it's required because you wanted one big window. Like, the
I just-
trade-off with that.
I've always had the experience that there's been a workaround.
Yeah, there's a pushback. What can I change
Yes.
in
Yes.
the design of the house
Yes.
To make
Yeah.
it work.
to meet this?
they wanted me to do that for
Calculation.
a pitched roof that was open, so we just added vents
Exactly.
in it,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
we didn't have to do
Right.
That's exactly it.
yeah
That's the
which
same.
that's good for flow too.
Right,
Which
it
is better
is.
anyway.
Yeah,
it
also.
is
And
better.
that's, yeah, because otherwise you have a little
Well,
hot box up
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Right. No, the whole. But to me, that should come to us. Like, if we're just the builders, the plans should come to us already having dealt with some idea of what it means price wise
Sure.
with other options. I should be able to say to the architect, this is too expensive, right? But here's the problem. Then the architect, not all, but some, push it back over and say, okay, client, add services. Because they're not in an AIA contract,
Yes.
which is a whole other conversation.
Yes.
But-
Yes.
Okay, so now.
No, this is a
Yeah.
huge issue I have.
That's a huge issue. You
Yeah.
want to talk about that? You want to bring that up today?
How are you feeling? It is Thursday.
Well, it's an interesting one, and it's happened. So it's two jobs that I actually one I didn't get. They went with a lower price, and then the other one I walked away from.
Good for you.
After we spoke about it, we had,
Did
you
you
got
walk
it.
away from that?
You gotta
I
trust your
did.
spidey
I
sense.
did.
You gotta trust
not
yourself.
not the big one, not the
No,
one
no,
we did.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was, the spidey sense of my it's funny, my project manager was like, I didn't have a good feeling about that house. They were living with the caved in ceiling and they just didn't respect the house at all. And I was like, speak up next time. Tell me before
If
I
you
spend
get a vibe.
20
Yeah.
hours
Yeah.
on the estimate because
That's
I
a red
trust your
flag.
intuition.
That is a big red flag.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
we're waiting till they build. Anyways, so
Yeah.
so
That's
it's
scary.
it's the first one, the one I walked from was it was unfortunate because they had a budget, talked to the architect about the budget, and then the bill just off the cuff. I did not even bid it yet, but I'm like, oh, this is like a $3 million, and that's double the budget that was discussed. And they're like, we got to do it for less. I'm like, well, I'll just bid the job. And then of course it's
about
comes in
exactly what you
much,
said.
Yeah, not quite that much, but yeah, it was high, and these clients were lovely, and they at first looked at me like I had three heads, but then when we spoke about it and we look at the drawings, they're like, oh, so our budget was just completely ignored.
Yes.
And I'm like, yes, and now we're at a point where you're in permitting,
Yep.
and so to
It's part of value
redesign
engineering. Yeah.
value
Yeah.
engineering is really difficult.
Yeah.
So are you going to get it down to sort of whatever you wanted, half of that 1.5, it's a full redesign. And then the other one, same deal, and they went with just somebody who had a lower price. And to me, my biggest thing is the relationship. Once we have a relationship, we'll figure out the money, we'll figure out how to
We'll
make
make
this
it work. Yeah, we'll make it
and
work.
you're not going to get everything you want.
You have to be
But-
understanding that there are
you have-
concessions that have to be
you'll
made.
build the budget
That-
together.
That's
We'll
where
build
I
it together, and
Yeah,
that's
that's
my
exactly.
sort of MO. That's sort of my sales pitch.
Mine
If
too.
Yeah.
it's like this is about the
Yeah.
relationship and
We're spending years together.
years.
Yeah.
Years.
Years.
And people don't realize that. And they also, as my dad always says to me, you get what you pay for.
As a busy professional designer, you know how important it is to find the right partnerships. Partnerships that allow you to specify the right products for every project. Professionals like you don't just have time to sit around and waste, right? So let me tell you about one of my partnerships. Pacific Sales is here to serve you with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commissioned professionals to help you specify the right product for all your projects. Non-commissioned. That means their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that, with over 60 years of service in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, and inspiration. And you will find all your favorite brands, like Monogram, and their commitment to providing exceptional products, starting with materials. Monogram sources commercial-grade stainless steel on their refrigerators, unscratchable sapphire glass on their cooktop knobs, durable marine-grade bearings on their dishwasher racks. Monogram takes inspiration from the leading-edge materials used in the high-end automotive and aeronautics industry to provide you with lasting beauty and exceptional quality. The beauty is backed by the same level of attention to performance, which is why Monogram appliances are trusted and sought after by chefs all over the country. Chain-driven French oven doors that can be opened with one hand, and an industry-exclusive hearth oven that allows for all-electric indoor brick oven-style cooking without the need for external ventilation. These are just a few of the things that make Monogram so special. Pacific Sales features Monogram appliances, and Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team is here to help you and offer their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you have experienced before. And here's the cherry on top: access. Access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands like Monogram. Visit a Pacific Sales showroom today to learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, where excellence meets expertise. Not one, but two amazing groups today. So listen, these were only segments from each of the conversations. For the full episodes of each, go to the show notes and click on the links to Doctoring Up Design, the official podcast of Design Hardware, and you can hear the full conversation of SheSpoke and the full conversation from the ASID-LA chapter. Thank you to everyone who participated in this incredible day of networking and professional growth. Sometimes it feels like everything's broken and the fixes just don't come easy. But when you have amazing talent like this, the problems almost seem to solve themselves. We'll be doing another event in LA shortly, and I will report back with the findings. If you are a designer, architect, landscape architect who wants to participate, or if you're a publicist with a client that you think might be a good fit in the Los Angeles area, please drop me an email. convobydesign@outlook.com. You can also reach out on Instagram at convobydesign with an X. Thank you to my incredible partner sponsors, Thermosol, Pacific Sales, Monogram, TimberTech, and Design Hardware for your continued support of both the show and the design and architecture community. It's important. So thank you again for listening and supporting the podcast. Until next week, be well and take today first.